In recent years, cars with automatic transmission have gone from being an exclusive luxury to becoming an increasingly common reality on our streets. What was once a privilege reserved for the most expensive models is now present even in compact and family vehicles. And that has radically transformed the way we drive. But along with this popularity, a silent problem also arrived: the lack of knowledge. Many drivers get behind the wheel believing that an automatic transmission requires no special care, that it's enough to accelerate, brake, and let the technology do the rest. And that's where the trap begins. The automatic transmission is comfortable, yes. It's practical, yes. But it is also a delicate and expensive piece of equipment. A failure in this system can mean thousands of dollars in repairs, or even the total loss of the vehicle. And the worst part is that most of these failures do not happen due to bad luck, but due to bad driving habits. That's why today I want to warn you about the mistakes you should never make with your car's automatic transmission. Mistakes that seem small, harmless, but that over time become true death sentences for the transmission. If you want to avoid absurd expenses and ensure your vehicle lasts for many years, listen carefully. Because throughout this video, we are going to go over the main mistakes that destroy the automatic transmission. First mistake: putting it in neutral on downhills. Many drivers believe that by putting the gear in neutral during a downhill they are saving fuel. The idea sounds logical. If the engine is not pushing, then it must consume less. But this is one of the most dangerous beliefs circulating among drivers. What really happens is that modern cars with electronic injection systems already reduce consumption automatically when they detect a downhill and the accelerator is not pressed. That means that keeping the gear engaged on a slope consumes practically nothing. On the other hand, putting the car in neutral eliminates the engine brake. That is, the vehicle is left depending solely on the brakes to control speed. The result? Overloaded brakes, overheated discs, and a huge risk of losing control on a long descent. Furthermore, the gearbox was not designed to receive neutral commands at high speeds. When returning to the drive position, the gears receive a sudden impact that accelerates their wear. What seems like an innocent maneuver to save cents ends up being a bill of thousands at the workshop. Therefore, if someone recommends putting the car in neutral on downhills, remember this warning. Not only will you not save anything, but you will put the transmission, the brakes, and your safety at risk. Second mistake: shifting from drive to reverse without stopping the car. The second mistake is so common that even some experienced drivers do it without thinking. Imagine you are parking. You move a few meters forward in drive, and to correct the maneuver, you move the lever directly to reverse while the car is still moving forward. What seems like an innocent gesture is, in fact, one of the worst abuses an automatic transmission can suffer. Why? Because the internal gear system is programmed to change direction only when the wheels are stopped. If you force the shift while the vehicle is still moving, those gears receive a brutal torsion, as if you were trying to force a bicycle to pedal backward while it is still moving forward. The consequences are not always noticeable immediately. The gearbox may respond at the moment, but inside you will have already created micro damage. A small, invisible fracture in the teeth of a gear, abnormal wear on the internal discs, undue pressure on the hydraulic system. Every time you repeat the maneuver, those small wounds accumulate until one day the gearbox simply says, "Enough." And here's the detail. Repairing an automatic transmission damaged by this mistake is extremely expensive. In many cases, the cost exceeds the value of the vehicle itself, all for not having waited 2 seconds for the car to come to a complete stop. The rule is clear. Whenever you need to shift from drive to reverse, step on the brake, wait for the vehicle to be stationary, and only then move the lever. That simple habit can save you a future of headaches and unpayable bills. Third mistake: using neutral at the traffic light. Many drivers believe that when stopping at a traffic light, it is better to place the lever in neutral to rest the gearbox or save fuel. Nothing could be further from the truth. The automatic transmission system was designed to stay in drive even with the car stopped and the brake pressed. When you place the lever in neutral and then return it to drive, what you are really doing is forcing an unnecessary change in the internal components. In other words, that constant gesture of shifting to neutral at every traffic light creates invisible wear that won't give you problems today, but in a few years will end up costing thousands. And about the supposed fuel savings, it's a myth. Modern cars automatically adjust consumption to a minimum during prolonged stops. It doesn't matter if you're in drive or neutral, the difference is insignificant. What is real is the risk. If the traffic light changes suddenly and you need to start quickly, that extra second you lose when shifting from neutral to drive can be the difference between moving forward or being hit by another vehicle. Therefore, the advice is simple. When stopping at a traffic light, keep the lever in drive, step on the brake, and wait. Your gearbox will thank you. Fourth mistake: putting the car in P before stopping completely. This mistake is more common than you imagine, especially in parking lots or quick maneuvers. The driver arrives at his destination. The car is still moving slowly, and before stopping completely, he moves the lever to park P. The problem is that the P mode activates a small mechanical lock, known as the parking POW. This is basically a tiny metal pin that blocks the transmission's output shaft to prevent the wheels from turning. When you put the lever in P while the car is still moving, that small pin receives the impact of the full weight of the moving vehicle. The result? Damaged, fractured, or worn pin. And there's no turning back here. Once that component breaks, the transmission loses the ability to lock the car in parked mode. That means extremely expensive repairs and, in some cases, the need to replace the entire gearbox. The correct habit is to stop the vehicle completely, press the brake firmly, and only then put the lever in P. This way, the pin enters smoothly into its place, fulfilling its function without receiving violent blows. It seems like a small detail, but it's the difference between a system that lasts for years and one that dies prematurely. Fifth mistake: using P as a handbrake. This is a classic mistake that I have seen repeated countless times in inclined parking lots. The driver arrives, puts the car in P, turns off the engine, and gets out without applying the handbrake. By doing so, he is forcing the entire weight of the vehicle to be supported solely by the same mechanical pin we talked about before, the parking pawl. That tiny component ends up carrying hundreds of kilos day after day until it inevitably deforms or breaks. The most immediate effect that is noticed is that when starting the car again and moving the lever, it seems stiff, stuck, or difficult to move. This happens because the pressure from the vehicle's weight is trapping the pin against the gear. Over time, this bad habit translates into internal damage. Strange noises when taking the lever out of P, and in the worst cases, the inability to park safely. The correct procedure is very simple. Always, absolutely always, first activate the handbrake, or parking brake. Let it be the one to support the weight of the car. Then yes, place the lever in P. In this way, the parking POW only fulfills its function as an additional safety lock instead of carrying the full weight of the vehicle. This small habit marks the difference between a car that parks without problems and an automatic gearbox condemned to the workshop. Sixth mistake: accelerating the car when cold. One of the most harmful habits for any engine, and especially for an automatic transmission, is starting the car and accelerating it when cold. Many drivers, in a hurry or impatient, turn the key or press the start button and immediately step on the accelerator. They believe that this way they warm up the engine faster. In reality, all they are doing is forcing the transmission oil to circulate at high pressure before it is at the proper temperature. When a car is cold, the lubricants are thicker. They need a few minutes to reach the ideal viscosity and properly protect the gears. If you accelerate in that state, what you cause is excessive friction, an invisible wear that over time translates into costly failures. The correct habit is simple. Start the engine, keep the lever in P or N, wait between 30 and 60 seconds, and only then start driving gently. It is not necessary to wait 10 minutes as was done in old cars, but give it at least that initial minute for the entire system to stabilize. 7th mistake: using the car as if it were a race car. Another common mistake is driving a vehicle with an automatic transmission as if it were a sports competition car. I'm referring to those aggressive maneuvers of accelerating fully, braking abruptly, and accelerating again immediately. The automatic transmission is designed to offer comfort and efficiency, not to withstand constant extreme pressure changes. Every time you press the accelerator to the floor and then brake suddenly, the internal discs of the gearbox suffer a thermal and mechanical shock. This generates excessive heat, accelerated wear, and in extreme cases, the dreaded burning of the transmission oil. When that happens, the oil loses its lubricating and protective properties, which opens the door to catastrophic damage. Although an automatic car can respond with power, it was not created for constant and violent use like that of a racing circuit. If you really need that experience, there is the option of sports or sequential manual gearboxes, which are designed to withstand that treatment. The advice is clear: drive smoothly. Do not confuse power with abuse. Your automatic gearbox can last hundreds of thousands of kilometers if you use it with respect, or it can die prematurely if you treat it like a competition toy. 8th mistake: not changing the transmission oil. This is perhaps one of the most serious mistakes and, paradoxically, one of the most frequent: not changing the transmission oil. There is a very widespread myth that says that the automatic transmission oil is for life. Some dealerships even promote it because it sounds attractive for selling cars. But the truth is different. No automotive fluid is eternal. Over time, the transmission oil becomes contaminated with metal particles, loses viscosity, and degrades due to heat. When that happens, it stops lubricating correctly and causes accelerated wear of all internal components. The results are abrupt shifts, gear slippage, strange noises, and, finally, a transmission that needs complete repair. The general recommendation of specialists is to change the transmission oil every 40,000 tours to 60,000 kilometers, although this may vary depending on the vehicle model and the type of use it receives. The important thing is not to fall into the trap of the eternal oil. If you want your gearbox to last, check your car's manual, respect the maintenance intervals, and always use quality oil, preferably the one recommended by the manufacturer. 9th mistake: towing more than the car can handle. Many SUV and pickup truck owners believe that because their vehicle is large and robust, it can tow anything. The reality is that each car has a towing limit clearly specified by the manufacturer. When you exceed that limit and hook up a trailer that is too heavy, you force the automatic transmission to work outside its design parameters. This generates overheating, excessive friction, and a brutal strain on the gears and torque converter. The result can be disastrous: loss of oil pressure, shifting failures, and even a total failure of the gearbox in the middle of the road. If you need to tow, always consult the owner's manual and respect the maximum indicated capacity. And if you plan to do it frequently, install an additional transmission oil cooler, which will help dissipate the extra heat generated. 10th mistake: not using the handbrake on slopes. We already talked about not using park, P, as a substitute for the handbrake, but this mistake deserves a special section. On steep streets, relying solely on the automatic transmission to hold the car is a recipe for disaster. When you do not use the handbrake on a slope, the entire weight of the vehicle rests on the small mechanical pin of the transmission. That pin was not designed to support hundreds of kilos for hours, much less for years. Over time, this bad habit causes the lever to become stiff, stuck, and for the shifts to start feeling forced. The correct procedure is very simple. Stop, step on the brake, activate the handbrake, and only then place the lever in P. Thus, the load of the vehicle is on the brakes and not on the transmission. It's a gesture that takes just 2 seconds, but it can extend the life of your automatic gearbox for years. 11th mistake: ignoring the warning signs. The last mistake, and perhaps the most dangerous, is ignoring the signs your car gives you. An automatic transmission never fails suddenly without first sending clear warnings. These signs can be abrupt shifts, gear slippage, strange noises, burning smells, or even the famous warning light on the dashboard. The problem is that many drivers choose to ignore them. They continue driving day after day, convinced that it's nothing, or that it will fix itself. The truth is that every additional kilometer driven in these conditions is aggravating the internal damage. An automatic gearbox with a minor problem can be solved with a simple oil change or an electronic adjustment. But if you ignore the symptoms, the failure becomes something bigger, and what used to cost little can now mean thousands of dollars in repair. The rule is clear: if you notice something strange in your transmission, do not ignore it. Take it to a trusted workshop as soon as possible and prevent the problem from growing. The automatic transmission is a marvel of modern engineering, but it is also one of the most delicate and expensive components of a car. Treating it with respect and avoiding these 11 fatal mistakes is the key for your vehicle to last hundreds of thousands of kilometers without problems. Remember, every bad habit, no matter how small it seems, leaves an invisible mark that sooner or later will be felt in your pocket. And every good habit, however simple, adds years of useful life to your car. If this content helped you better understand how to take care of your transmission, don't forget to leave your like, share it with other drivers, and subscribe so you don't miss the next tips. Because in the end, taking care of your car is also taking care of your safety and your money.